Let's solve this using the quadratic formula. Now the quadratic formula is really great to use as long as you've got it in the right form. So it says that x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This is all depending on the fact that you've got your equation in the right form. So for this equation, I've got it set up in the right way. All of my terms on one side and 0 on the other. That means that I can read my a, my b, and my c. Let me put my lead coefficient of 1 there. I've got 1x squared. So this tells me that a is equal to 1. B is the coefficient on my x, which is a -5. So b is equal to -5. And then c is my constant at the end. So c is going to be that 6. So c is equal to 6. Now that I've got these numbers, I can plug them into the formula. The simplifying is really going to be the bulk of our work here. So x is equal to one big fraction, the opposite of b. So the opposite of -5, you could just write that as a +5 to start, but it's the opposite of b, plus or minus the square root, give yourself a nice big square root, the square root of b squared, so -5 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 6, divided by 2a, so 2 times 1. Okay, so I've got everything plugged in here, but my work is really in the simplifying. Okay, so what do I get? Negative times a negative, that gives me a +5 in that numerator. So I get a +5 there, plus or minus the square root. Let's do that -5 squared next. That's going to be a 25. Minus 4 times 1 times 6, that's minus 24, divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. Next, let's simplify that square root. So inside of our square root, that's just going to be a 1, isn't it? So I get x is equal to 5 plus or minus the square root of 1 divided by 2. The square root of 1 is just 1. So 5 plus or minus 1 divided by 2. This really gives me two possible answers with that plus or minus. So one possible answer is 5 plus 1 divided by 2. The second possible answer is 5 minus 1 divided by 2. These are our values for x. X equals, okay, 5 plus 1 is a 6. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. There's one of my solutions. Or 5 minus 1 is a 4. So 4 over 2. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I've got two solutions there of 3 and 2. Notice how we got really nice integers here. There's no square roots. There's not even any fractions. That means that this is not the easiest way to solve this problem. The easiest way to solve this, let me erase, is by factoring. And if you can factor something, that's going to be your first line of defense because factoring is always the easier way. Watch how fast this is to factor. So I've got 0 on one side already. So I've got x times x. And for that 6, I'm going to use -2 times -3. So -2 times -3, and that gives me my two solutions of 2 and 3 without going through all of those steps. Let's look at some others that need the quadratic formula. Here comes the next one. In this one, I'm not quite ready to use the quadratic formula. In order to identify a, b, and c, I need 0 on one side first. So let's subtract a 1 so that we've got that. So 2x squared plus 6x minus 1 is equal to 0. The other thing that I look for is a GCF in all of my terms, but there's nothing that divides into the 2, the 6, and the 1. So that means that I need to identify my a, my b, and my c. A is there, b is there, and c is there. So a is 2, b is 6, c is my -1. Let's put those into our formula. Okay, so x is equal to one big long fraction there. The opposite of b, but b is 6, so the opposite of 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 6 squared, minus 4 times a times c. I'm going to put that in parentheses because that's a -1. I'll divide it by 2a. That's going to be a 2 times a 2. Let's simplify inside the square root for sure. So I get -6 plus or minus, big fraction there. and this is going to be 36. And what do I get? Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 1, that's going to be a positive 8. So I get plus 8 here. And 2 times 2 is 4 in our denominator. So x is equal to negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 plus 8 is 44. Divided by 4, it's just all that simplifying. I need more room already. Let's see, I can actually do a partial square root of that 44. Instead, let's think of this as the square root of 4 times 11. That way I can take the square root of 4. So what does that leave us? Okay, so we end up with negative 6 plus or minus, I'm actually going to write this out in 2 steps just so you can see what I've done. Square root of 4 times the square root of 11, all divided by 4. So negative 6 plus or minus, that square root of 4 is 2, but there's no way that I can simplify the square root of 11. So I'm stuck with the square root of 11, all divided by 4. Now there's still a little bit left that you can do. Remember that we were looking for GCFs, a number that divided into everything. I do that when I end up with an answer like this. And I do notice that I can factor a 2 out of the numerator, and that's going to cancel with the 4 in our denominator. So let's go ahead and factor out a 2. So when I factor a 2 out of this numerator, it's like I'm dividing by 2. Divide by 2. I get a negative 3 plus or minus. These 2's cancel. I get that radical 11. And in our denominator, I'm going to think of that 4 as 2 times 2. I can cancel those 2's. Oh my gosh, it's all about that arithmetic. And I end up with x is equal to, don't forget that these are our 2 solutions, negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 11, all divided by 2. I've got one more for you. I want you to pause the video and get this one set up so that we can identify our A, our B, and our C, and then catch back up with me. Okay, so for starters, the negative 8x and the 16 need to be on the other side. So I'm going to add those, 8x plus 16 on both sides. So I get a 2x squared, let's write these in order, plus 8x plus 16 is equal to 0. So I've got them in order, and I've got 0 on one side. But before I identify my A, my B, and my C, I notice that I have a GCF. I've got a number that divides into all of those coefficients. 2, 8, and 16 are all divisible by 2. So I'm going to divide everybody by 2, including the 0 on the other side. Now this works great for numbers, but it does not work great for variables. So I'm just going to divide everything by 2. This is going to simplify our life a lot. So I get an x squared plus a 4x plus an 8 is equal to 0. Let's identify the A, the B, and the C. I've got one x squared there, so that's my A. My B is 4, and my C is 8. A, B, and C. Into our formula, x is equal to the opposite of b. That's going to be a negative 4 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 4 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 8, all divided by 2 times a. 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. Okay, simplifying, I get negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 minus 4 times 1 times 8. 4 times 1 times 8 is 32. 32, all divided by 2. So I get x is equal to negative 4 plus or minus the square root. 16 minus 32 is a negative 16. So whenever you have, and this is called our discriminant. So this, whatever we have inside the square root, this is called our discriminant. In this case, we ended up with a negative discriminant, which means that we have a non-real solution. I'm going to stop here with our non-real solution because if I was looking for real solutions, I could just say that there are no real solutions. If instead you were using complex numbers, you could finish this one out and end up with a solution using an I. Take a look at these videos here for more ways to solve quadratics.